Okay, yeah. I see Snarky roasting Randy. I think two of my favorite things, Snarky and people who hate Randy Pitchford. Real fans will pay blah, 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 stupid Nintendo garbage.
Well, if the entire gaming industry wasn't disappointing enough, we're now basically being called losers for not being able to afford $80 a game.
Freaking pause.
Hi,
Okay,
y'all.
I'm trying to talk. I don't know why it wasn't pausing. That was weird. Okay. So, I know it's not Nintendo. I know Randy Pitchford has nothing to do with Nintendo. I'm sure it won't stop them from trying to put the new Borderlands game on the Switch 2, I can guarantee you. But he has a very Nintendo mentality where it's all about him and you're supposed to just accept it and take it. That's what I meant. Do not come at me in the comments, or do come at me in the comments and help my engagement. I appreciate that, actually.
Snarky Jay cosplay here. Yes, I am in fact in Tifa cosplay for this one, sans the red eyes and the wig, because I couldn't be bothered for all that. But this video was born out of my passion for gaming and some recent headed comments from a CEO, which when aren't CEOs saying headed comments. And I just thought it was an important enough topic that I spent not only a few hours.
Although, the guy who leads Larian Studios, I don't know if he's a CEO, but I want to grow up to be like that guy.
Researching and putting all of this together, but I figured I might as well cosplay one of my favorite gaming characters of all time, Tifa Lockhart from Final Fantasy VII, you know, just to make the video a little more fun. So let's jump right into it. So the CEO of the company that makes Borderlands is in hot water right now based off a Twitter exchange in which he said that real fans are going to be the ones who come out and spend $80 for video games moving forward. If you need a little more context, I will read you the exact post. A Twitter user tweeted at Randy Pitchford, the CEO, and said, "Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant increase of the price tag. You are the CEO. You have some say with the price when it comes to your publisher." Randy Pitchford could have answered this in so many ways, but his response was A, not my call. B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. Honestly, brain dead response. He is clearly at no shortage of money, so of course it's easy for him to say, make it happen. Now, obviously, I want to dissect that, but I think when we look at commentary about the gaming industry at large, we're honestly in a really...
Don't look at commentary about the gaming industry at large. This is very clearly a Randy Pitchford issue. This is not about the gaming industry. This is about Randy Pitchford, a man who is known to stiff his developers by lying about how successful a game is and then accept hundreds of millions of dollars in bonuses, even though he told his developers the game didn't do good enough for them to get their bonuses, which is a staple of the industry. Hey, we're not going to pay you a lot, but you're going to get big bonuses if the game does well. Guess what? Borderlands 3 did very, very well, but Randy Pitchford, after getting his $100-something million, decided the developers didn't earn their bonuses.
Weird time because we're hearing about a lot of advancements when it comes to gaming and things that make the future of gaming sound super exciting, but we're also hearing about all these price hikes and exorbitant costs that we're probably gonna struggle to afford in the next few years. So it's kind of like we don't really know where we're going. So I thought, to analyze this sort of brain dead sounding answer, why not really take a look at what the gaming industry looks like right now when it comes to money? Right now, publishers of premium games are sort of worrying because in 2024, the revenue for console gaming actually dropped a little bit as a result of lost revenue when it comes to premium games. Of course, we're talking some of those AAA games, those really long open world type of games, and the reason why those are losing money is because we're running more and more into a shifting tide of consumer trends.
It's because Randy Pitchford doesn't know what he's doing. Borderlands 3 mainly did well because Borderlands 2 was so good. It had nothing to do with Borderlands 3. Granted, the gameplay was tight, but the story was garbage. The villains were garbage. The references were stupid and outdated. Definitely written by hipsters. The dialogue was bad. The jokes were bad. Everything was bad except for the art was pretty good. And the gameplay was probably the best in the entire series. Also, the DLCs, wonderful. The DLCs at the end of the game, wonderful. Absolutely. They're probably some of the most fun I've ever had in the Borderlands DLCs. But everything else in the game sucked. There was a running meme that persists today that the game is good if you play it on mute. And honestly, that's not a joke. That is real. You do not want to hear the dialogue of the twin 20-something-year-old influencer villains who do podcasts.
People at large are spending way less money on premium titles and are instead moving into that free-to-play but loaded with microtransactions sort of thing. Think Fortnite, Roblox, Overwatch, that type of game. Do not let that statement fool you, though. The gaming industry continues to grow, both on PC and console. We are seeing more and more money than ever, billions of dollars. It is a growing industry. I want you to take a look at this graph real quick. Editing the giraffe thing again. At this point, I know...
I don't know what's funnier, that she put the giraffe up there when she said graph, or that she's faking mad about something. I think she's her own editor, I believe she said once, so she would have made that joke.
You're doing it as a bit. Stop. Don't give me another giraffe. Come on, just show him the graph. Okay, thank you. Even though from 2021 to 2024 we had a loss as far as market growth in consoles, pretty much PC has been consistently growing, and console gaming, based on performance between 2024 and 2025, is already anticipated to keep jumping all the way through 2027. Even though when it comes to consoles we're seeing premium game sales drop, you know what's going up every single day? Microtransactions, subscriptions, and DLC sales. In 2024, microtransactions accounted for $13.9 billion of the entire revenue.
Yeah, but Borderlands doesn't have microtransactions. It's never had them, and it doesn't currently have them. Unless they introduce them in Borderlands 4, I can't see it having microtransactions.
For the console market. That's 32% of the total, which is up 4.5% from 2023. Subscriptions come in at 16% of the total revenue, making up almost $7 billion. And DLC sales are at $2.2 billion, which is a jump that's nothing to sneeze at, 2.5% from the previous year. And when we're looking at these gaming subscriptions like PS Plus, Xbox Premium, all that sort of thing, those subscriptions are expected to hit $27 billion by 2028. And mind you, a lot of the services you get with these subscription services used to be free. Let's talk about PlayStation Plus for a minute.
Oh yeah,
you used to be able to access PlayStation Network and play live online with your friends for free, because I basically grew up playing video games a little bit.
Yeah, it's freaking stupid and ridiculous. I mean, there's a lot of games you could still play for free, like free games, like Apex. I think League of Legends is on PlayStation, right? I don't know, like the free games with their microtransactions, very heavy, and the Fortnite. I forgot about Fortnite. Those you can play for free on the internet. Not so much a lot of them. I don't know why they put that behind a paywall.
Big Planet 2 and 3 until 3 in the morning with my friends for free. Granted, back in those days I was guilty of the microtransactions because I was buying those costumes like they were candy. The little costumes you could put on the...
Oh, those are cute. I want the little Tifa one and the Aerith one. Kind of the Cloud one too. I like his little face with the hair.
Sackboy. At 3 a.m. I was making all kinds of little creations. That was my shit. And then in 2013, when they brought out the PS4, they said no more. Now you gotta pay to play. Back in the day, PlayStation Plus was about $50 a year, and basically it was just access to their online library of games that you really couldn't get on disc. You had all kinds of stuff that you could play included with the price of your subscription. Nowadays, for $80 a year, all you get is a basic membership that lets you play online, and if you want all the perks that PlayStation has to offer, you're looking at about $160 a year. And
that's freaking stupid. Why are they charging you $80 a year to be able to play games you already bought?
That's just talking Sony being greedy. But let's talk about the games themselves, right? Let's say you go out and buy one of those premium games. Surely, when you spend $60, or maybe even in the future, $80 to $100, it's gotta have everything you want included, right? Wrong. Over 70% of AAA and major studio games released in the past 15 years have some sort of post-launch content that you're going to have to pay for. And that's including but not limited to DLC, season passes, battle passes, you name it. They're getting you for more than you initially paid when you walked out of GameStop. I don't think anybody's still going to GameStop, but I remember it fondly. And the reason why these publishers work that way,
I think they go to get Pokemon cards,
is because it makes them so much money. DLC and microtransactions actually accounts for over 50% of the revenue that comes into some publishers like EA and Sony, Ubisoft, you name it. And you might be sitting there thinking, Jay, you f***ing console peasant, that's what you get for still playing on a PlayStation. Well, PC gamers are screwed too. Microtransactions accounted for 58% of PC gaming revenue last year. DLC...
Yeah, but to be fair, that's not most gamers. That's just a small chunk of gamers who wail. That has nothing to do with actual gamers.
in 2024 made up 14% of PC gaming revenue, over $5 billion. So they're getting you to buy a game that should be finished, but then they're nickel and diming you for all this other stuff. And it's been happening for the past decade and a half, and it's only getting worse. When it comes to microtransactions, it's Fortnite, Call of Duty, and NBA games that have really helped drive up those microtransaction revenue numbers. When it comes to DLC, it was Elden Ring, Diablo 4, and Destiny 2. And I mean, look, if you look at a free-to-play game like Fortnite or even Overwatch 2, sure, they gotta get your money somehow. But you look at these single-player big game releases, and the fact that even they get you with these huge DLC costs are crazy. Need I remind you that Elden Ring actually had one of the largest DLC launches ever. Their DLC launched and sold over 5 million copies in 3 days. One of the fastest-selling DLCs ever, and it actually sold a lot more than some recent video games. So, all right,
that's because those people actually care about what they're making, and that's why it works.
Are making a load of money by royally screwing us on microtransactions, DLCs, and basically squeezing out every penny when and where they can. Let's talk about the fact that not only are they doing that, but they're still talking about raising the price tag even more. It's starting to look like $80 to $90 could be our new normal when it comes to purchasing video games. When the Nintendo Switch 2 was announced,
or indie games, always solid. Also, PC gaming, ever since I started, it's been so much better because there's so many more choices on Steam than there are on either of the consoles.
When those prices came out, everybody was absolutely floored. Games for the new console are going to be up to $80 for digital copies and $90 for physical ones. And it sounds crazy to go spend $80 to $90 on a video game,
which I won't.
More and more game developers are hoping that that's exactly what the new normal is going to be. The internet has been buzzing for weeks with rumors that GTA 6 could cost up to $100. Matthew Ball, who is an analyst...
But to be fair, that will come with an accurate price tag for what you're going to get. It should not be $100, but people who pay $100 for it are people who are fans of Grand Theft Auto or want to capitalize on the trend. Either way, they're going to get their money's worth because basically the company puts everything into those games and tons of hours worth of content followed by like online play for it if you wanted to do that stuff. But also, they'll add things as they go, like as time goes on. And how long did GTA 5 last before they finally came out with GTA 6? Soon, I hope. Next year, I think. Unless they push it back again. Like, it's been going for a while. And people who paid for that definitely got their money's worth.
And also the
Not to mention all of like challenge runs and stuff like that, and all the RP that comes with it. Just years of people doing roleplay. Like if you buy one of those a GTA game, you're gonna get your money's worth.
CEO of Apillion, he gave a presentation on the state of gaming earlier this year, and near the end of the presentation, he dropped some pretty concerning knowledge if you're a gamer who likes to, I don't know, be able to pay rent. He said that a lot of game developers are actually currently rooting for GTA 6 to break that $100
well, yeah,
price
of course.
tag, so that
but they're hoping that they do that so that they can start pricing their games closer to $100. The problem is they don't make games that are worth $100.
folks that are currently selling games at 50 can move to 60, 60 can move to 70. You guys get where I'm going with this, right? And realistically, playing devil's advocate, and I'm gonna start making sense in a way that a lot of people are not gonna like, gaming budgets, much like Hollywood, are completely out of proportion lately. Games like The Last of Us 2 and Cyberpunk 2077 are actually reported to have cost over $250 million. That's Hollywood blockbuster money on a video game. And unfortunately, if we're making sense here, when you look at the budgets for some of these games now, and you look at the fact that we've been paying $60 for every video game for the past 2 decades, economically it makes sense that it's probably time for us to start ponying up a little more dough.
No, it's time for them to spend less money on the games.
In the same presentation, Matthew Ball pointed
We should not be held responsible for their bad financial decisions.
out that technically packaged games are actually the cheapest they've ever been, because with the cost of inflation and rising budgets and rising costs when it comes to the gaming studios, the fact that we're still paying what we were paying almost 25 years ago basically shows that the gaming market has been steadily suffering deflation for years. So realistically, if I'm looking at this from a genuine, objective, purely economical perspective, it makes total sense that we start paying more money for these games. They're getting more and more expensive to produce.
Or they spend less.
So why wouldn't we pay more for them? But the problem I think that a lot of us are dealing with is that some of the games that are coming out really don't feel like they're ever going to be worth that bigger price tag. Back before the major studios had the ability to send us over-the-air updates, they had to put out a game that was finished and good. It couldn't be loaded with bugs, it couldn't be an unplayable mess, because all they were able to do was give us a cartridge or a disc, and that was it. Our entire play experience was going to be dependent on what was on that.
I think the only Sega game I currently have is Aladdin, and it's sitting over there on my PlayStation shelf because I don't have anything else to put on a Sega shelf. Well, that's not true. I have those old, I want to say Burger King or McDonald's handheld Sonic games. They're still in the plastic. I'm pretty sure they actually work still then.
That thing. But nowadays, they can sell you an unfinished game that happens to be a buggy mess. It will be filled with microtransactions, and it could ultimately be lacking the one thing you bought the game for, which could be, realistically, meaningful single-player content. And I mean, look, not every game commits that crime, right? If we look at the 2023 Game of the Year produced by Larian, Baldur's Gate 3 was a tremendous success that didn't have to rely on post-game release DLC.
How much did they spend on Baldur's Gate 3? I would like to hear that. And then how much did they make? Is it possible they didn't spend $250 million?
DLC. They put out a lot of different patches, they've kept consistent support for the game, and they've actually managed to keep boosting their player base since the game was released in 2023 with support for mods and all kinds of other things that have really built the game into a long-standing community of people that keep going back to it. And besides all the hype, it made pretty good money because it's
I have two friends who separately decided to restart the game with some other friends, and they're still having a blast with it.
Sold over 15 million copies worldwide. A game like Baldur's Gate 3, which I'm not an RPG person. The closest I get to RPGs are Final Fantasy, and that's because I'm a big softie for them. But a game like Baldur's Gate 3, if they presented such a complete, such a huge world with so many options, and they said this is 80 to 100 bucks, it might be justifiable. But if we think about some of these past releases that were absolute disasters, it leaves a foul taste in your mouth about the prospect of having to pay even more.
On the bright side, this will make bad games fail even harder. Can you imagine if Dragon Age Veilguard tried to come out at $100? How much fewer games it would have sold?
Thinking about a game like Assassin's Creed Unity, which I was absolutely stoked for. I had actually pre-ordered, I had the collector's set, and it was a borderline unplayable mess full of bugs.
That feels like good content, though.
Unfinished parts of the game, and they still had the balls to
sell
DLC.
That lady felt like much better content.
So the release of Cyberpunk 2077, which was completely unplayable on PS4. Granted, those players got refunds, but it still meant for big disappointment and a lot of backlash for the studio. And on the less buggy side and more corporate greed side, we've got a game like Overwatch, which launched in 2016, and it had...
See, if you bought that when it launched, which I did, you got your money's worth over time, man. Tons of money you could have had to pay for this game for the years I spent playing it. Nope.
Had a tremendous player base. It wasn't free to play, but pretty much everybody that bought the game got super into the characters.
Yeah, and it wasn't that much money either.
You couldn't throw a rock in a convention center without hitting like 16 different Overwatch cosplayers. And they spent years teasing this loyal fan base with lore, with the idea that the second Overwatch was going to have a lot more story-based stuff. And what did they do? They abandoned support for Overwatch 1, made Overwatch 2 free to play, and then stuffed the game with microtransactions, locked a lot of content and opportunity behind paywalls, and then basically abandoned any of the story-related, really exciting stuff that their loyal fan base was really into. And so they pretty much lost a lot of their fan base. You don't see anybody
Yep. I stopped playing the day they stopped the servers for the original Overwatch. I came back strictly for Velas, and that was it. And I have not played since she has played with me.
Play Overwatch at conventions anymore, and they're now getting their ass kicked by the much more intuitive Marvel rivals, which looks like a reskin of Overwatch with none of the bad juju towards fans. And speaking of fans, let's circle right back to Sir Randy Pitchford's comments about the
Boo! Boo, Pitchford, do not show up tonight at the State of Play.
Real
or Summer Game Fest this weekend. Do not ruin my weekend.
Fans. Let's think about that for a second. Real fans are going to be the ones who can afford that $80 price tag. It's not about whether or not you can pay for it. It's really about your dedication to the brand, to the game, right? If the definition of fan means willing and able to spend money, and it means nothing else,
that is not what it means.
Being a fan, that
he would think that because he doesn't understand his own little Borderlands universe or what the heart and soul of Borderlands is. He never has.
And I want to think about the things that I'm really, really passionate about. I am a fan of healthcare. I'm a fan of being able to afford groceries.
Me
I'm a
too.
fan
Food's
of
good.
keeping a roof over my head.
Yeah, roof good.
I'm a
Rain bad.
fan of putting gas in my car and also making
Going
sure my
places in
cats and my
freedom.
dog don't starve. Look,
Animals
we've been
more
over the
important.
gaming industry at large here, and admittedly, as somebody who loves gaming, it's a double-edged sword. I have been playing video games since I was a kid. I remember borrowing my brother's Game Boy Color to play Worms. I remember borrowing my dad's PS2 to run people over in
Based, this is probably one of the best ones, if not the best one. I mean, you can argue San Andreas is the best one, and I would not argue with you on that. Both of them great games.
GTA when he wasn't looking, and then eventually they got me my own games, like Bratz and Sly Cooper, and later Ratchet and Clank, and Little
Scoops.
Planet, and Assassin's Creed, and Red Dead, and all these different things that really have led to my entire life living with a controller in my hand. I honestly feel like
Good for
gaming
her.
is an art form, and so many of us really relate to it and get passionate about it. So the thought of knowing that it could get inaccessibly expensive for a lot of people is a fucking bummer and a half. I selfishly don't want to pay $20 more for any fucking game. I'd like to pay as
Who
little
would?
as possible for everything in my life. But financially,
If it's a good game or it's something that you know you're going to love, then you're willing to pay a little bit more for it because you know you're going to get that extra bit of enjoyment out of it. But if you want to pay extra for something like I don't know the IP for, or I've never played one of the games in the franchise, then you're crap out of luck because I'm going to pay less for that. I'm probably going to end up buying it used, if anything, off of like eBay or something. Plain and simple.
it doesn't make sense. Everything is getting more expensive. We cannot keep saying that the one thing that needs to stay the same price, I have to spend the same amount of money that I've been spending for the past 30 years. It doesn't make sense. I don't know how they've even held on this long, but it doesn't make sense. I don't want it to not make sense, but it doesn't. All things considered, if I can afford it, if I've saved the money, being asked to spend $80 to $100 on a really well-produced video game is really not that big an ask. And I was just talking to my dad about this while I was researching this video, and he brought up a really good point. If you consider the price of movie tickets, which I know a lot of us really don't buy movie tickets anymore, you might go spend $17.50 to go sit somewhere else, not in your house, and sit there for 90 minutes to 2.5 hours, and that was $17. That was your entire experience. If you went right now and spent $60 on a Final Fantasy game, you could be getting 60 hours out of it and a lifetime of obsession. Let's say you
Well, that
finished
sounds
the
fun to
entire
me. I
campaign
like
of Final
that.
Fantasy 16 in 35 hours. And for argument's sake, I'm not even going to count the 5 hours that you spent crying on your couch about it afterwards. 35
Great show. If you haven't seen Arrested Development, I highly recommend.
hours. That's just the main campaign and all the cutscenes. That's not counting any side quests or additional thing you could do. 35 hours, $60. That means that you spent less than $2 an hour of gameplay. And sure, you know, you might be the kind of person to just sit there hyper fixated on it and beat it in like a week because you basically dedicated your life to it and didn't do anything else. But if you spread the game time
And
out
who
like a normal
amongst us
person,
has
then
not been
realistically
there?
think about how much entertainment
I've been there many, many times, and I don't regret it at all.
you've just bought yourself for $60. To raise that to $80 to $100, it still is a way better value than you're getting for movie tickets, and it's a way better value than most entertainment costs you may have. So look, I have to argue that gaming is worth the price increase. The prices have been stagnant for over 2 decades now, and that basically makes no sense for any other industry. The fact that we would latch on this hard to prices in the gaming industry kind of makes no sense financially, and I can 100% understand why they want to raise prices. Does it sting? Do I like
Yeah, it's because they keep overspending on games instead of, I don't know, just making good games for less money. It really doesn't take that much. They just keep expecting if you pump more into it, you'll get more out of it, and that's not how that works.
it? Yes, it stings. No, I don't like it. But I consider myself a gamer. I love games. I love these stories and these characters and these things that we get to participate in the minute we get a controller in our hands. Now, unfortunately, being a fan doesn't pay the bills. Fandom pays for nothing. So for a CEO to say something like real fans are the one that's going to be able to afford this is one more sign of how out of touch these people are and how little they care, and they basically ruin
Randy Pitchford's always been untouched. You can't attribute that to everybody. He comes on stage to announce the Borderlands game so he can get the credit for all the work other people do. But then also is like, oh, hold on, let me do like 20 minutes of showing you a magic trick that is mediocre at best, but I'm also not good at it. He's so annoying and just self-absorbed.
any part of the argument that I've just established. If I were him and somebody had come claiming to me, please don't raise the prices of this video game. I don't know why I almost did a William Shatner there, but if they had said that, my point is not to insult the guy and be like, hey, f you, the real fans are gonna be able to afford it. What the f? The real fans are struggling to afford eggs and gasoline, my dude. The real response is
The real fans played your last couple games that were not good and definitely not worth the price.
I just did in this video and point out, hey man, you know what? Unfortunately, our costs are getting even higher. We're working so hard to put out the ultimate quality game for you. We want it to be great. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to raise our prices, but don't worry, you're getting the best possible experience. Please stay with us. You're gonna get something awesome. There we go. Quick lesson in PR. But instead, because these people are f***ing loaded and so far removed from our struggles of like, do I put gas in the car or do I go buy the next Final Fantasy? They don't really give a shit. And it's those attitudes that push out games that aren't finished, that create these microtransaction loaded nightmares, and basically put out subpar, unfinished products that do not fulfill the promises made to fans. It's those attitudes that piss people off. At the end of the day, none of us want to see prices raised, but if you treat us with, you know...
I want the game to be good, but I would also really like it if it crashed and burned. Like the Switch 2, hopefully. Yay! I want Randy Pitchford to get fired so bad so they can put someone in charge who gives a crap.
A little TLC and you're honest with us about why these things are happening, well then I'm sure most of us would come around and we might be a little grumpy as we fork over that extra 20 bucks, but as long as the game you made us is good, well, we're gonna shut up and enjoy it after. But when they produce the games that they do, and then their CEOs have these attitudes, they're basically treating us like, hey, the games are getting more expensive because you're all broke bitches and we hate you. We don't want to be treated like broke bitches. I don't want the studio talking to me like I'm a broke bitch. Look, I guess what I'm saying here is that we can't
I'm sorry, the delivery of that was great.
Ask the studios to keep the games the exact same price because it doesn't make sense anymore. We're expecting less microtransactions and stuff like that, but we're also expecting the graphics to get better, the stories to get bigger. We want more.
No, we don't. We're fine with things the way they are. We don't care if they get better. Everyone's happy with just playing a good game. They don't have the graphics don't have to keep getting better, and the sound and art don't have to keep getting better. It's ridiculous.
More and more content. We want more bang for our buck, but the buck has stayed the same for 30 years, and that doesn't make sense. Yes, the idea that video game prices could be going up even more while we're all struggling to pay rent and get by and just looking for a little bit of fantasy, a little escape in our lives, feels like a real kick in the shins. I can admit that. But to say there's no game that's worth it, every gaming studio sucks, it would be wrong. The key here is to do your research and answer
there's
a
plenty
couple
of gaming
important
studios that
questions for
are
yourself.
really good at what they do.
What games really matter to you, where you need to spend the $80 to $100?
Like, there's not a lot of them that are left that are still reliable. Like, whenever they're going to come out with something, you're like, okay, well, this is going to be fantastic. But we still have some.
On launch day, instead of waiting for a day where it might go on sale or buying it used off somebody that beat it in a week. What are the honest reviews saying? Because
I will be buying a lot of games used off of somebody who beat it in a week. I'm not paying full price. Preferably if I could do Borderlands. If it's really, really bad, I could buy it cheap a lot sooner. Maybe if I wait long enough. Christmas sale? One of the holidays, I don't know. But I'm fine waiting to buy it used because I don't trust Randy Pitchford. The same way I don't buy Bethesda games new anymore because I don't trust Todd Howard or Bethesda.
Of course, you'll find the shills that got paid for reviews and basically say every new video game is the second coming of Christ, and then they're a buggy mess upon release, so you gotta keep an eye out for that. Then you gotta ask, does the CEO of the studio whose pockets you're currently lining think you're a broke bitch and f***ing hate you and that's why the game has gotten expensive? Or has the price gone up because they've made a fantastic, fully polished, amazing game with deep immersion that is going to be so worth your money and time? In the complicated and ever more expensive gaming industry, they're all questions worth asking, but at the end of the day, once you've answered them, however you've answered them, all that's left to do is to press start. And that's all from me. I've been Snarky Jay.
Thank you,
so much for watching.
Snarky.
Please don't
Everyone
forget to
say
like
bye,
and subscribe for more
Snarky.
Snarky Jay. Be sure to check me out on Instagram. And
Check her out on
if you'd like to support me,
Instagram
this
if you
channel,
like
and my
pretty
content
cosplay,
creation,
ladies.
please check out and consider subscribing to my Patreon for exclusive photo shoot sets and cosplay content. I'll add links to all of those in the description below. And let me know if you think these price hikes are
Description
fair or
below
not
if you want
in
to
the
check
comments
out,
below.
I guess, just those two things. Instagram and Patreon. Okay. That was
My work is
Snarky
easy to
Jay.
talk to.
Shut up,
Here's how to
random
keep
guy
track of
with
all my
beard.
tasks.
I didn't ask your opinion. Oh my God, it did the thing again where I pressed pause and it immediately jumped to another video. I did not tell you to do that. Although you get to see Snarky again. Full looks fantastic. Good for you. So yeah, that was Snarky Jay. Give her a like and sub if you like her. Of course, we like her on this channel. She's an absolute delight and a firecracker. We like her opinion because she's brutally honest when she needs to be brutally honest, and she has a good taste because the crow. Also, Diva, Diva. We love Tifa Lockhart. Leave a comment down below if you're going to buy the new Borderlands game. Are you going to buy it brand new, or are you going to buy it with all the battle passes so they can milk you for more money? And that's fine if that's what you like, if that's what you're into. Go for it. No judgments here. If you're going to wait and buy it used, once they fix at least some of the bugs, because they never fix all the bugs for some stupid reason, give me a heads up. I would love to know your opinion on those things. I'll catch you guys later. It's almost time for State of Play, so I got to go get ready. Love you. Take care of yourself. Stay hydrated. Take care of somebody else, absolutely. And love and nachos be with you always, baby bears. Mwah.